Hello, 4th and 5th grade. This is the final week of Number the Stars. We are going to finish the book this week. This video is for the Monday reading that we're going to do. We are going to read chapter 16 today, chapter 17 tomorrow, and then there's a final section. It's called the afterword. It's kind of like an epilogue, but in this case it's more of a note from the author, as far as the author explaining what things she made up in the book and what things were actually real from history. And then to finish it off, you will take your AR quiz and your vocab quiz. Okay, so like I said, this video is for the Monday reading. If you don't have your book and your packet, pause this video and go and grab those now. Okay, so real quick, last week when we left off, remember the important packet that Mr. Rosen was supposed to deliver to Henrik had fallen out of his pocket when he fell right before they left the house. So Anne-Marie found it. Her mom was in no shape to deliver it because she had fallen and broken her ankle. So Anne-Marie packed the packet into a picnic basket with some food and took off to Uncle Henrik, pretending she was bringing him a lunch that he had forgotten. She was stopped by Nazi soldiers that had dogs, and they kind of ripped through her basket, and they actually did find the packet. But when they opened it up, it was just this handkerchief. So she was eventually let go, and she was able to get the packet to Uncle Henrik, and that's where we had left off. A few other things I just wanted to review. Remember at the very beginning of the book, maybe a couple chapters in, Peter, who was supposed to marry her sister Lise, had come to their apartment and had delivered a newspaper. And that newspaper was written by the Danish resistance group. So the resistance was this group of Danes who were actively going against the Nazi soldiers. Just remember that about the resistance. And then remember Uncle Henrik was helping the Rosens and the other Jews escape to Sweden, because we know that Sweden was not occupied or had been taken over by the Nazis or by Germany. Just to give a little bit more explanation to that, a big reason was that Sweden wanted to stay neutral during World War II. They were not going to join either side, whether it was the bad guys or the good guys, because they kind of had deals, you could say, with both sides. Like they would help as far as like natural resources go. So there were things that they did for like the Germans, and there were things that they did for the Americans and the other allies, but they didn't take sides. And so that was a big reason why Sweden was free, and that they knew taking Jewish people there would be safe. Okay, so in your book, we are on chapter 16, which is page 120. So chapter 16, I will tell you just a little. So chapter 15 had left off. Uncle Henrik's funny line was, "They took my bread, eh?" he said. "I hope they choke on it." Okay, chapter 16. "Poor Blossom," Uncle Henrik said, laughing after dinner that evening. "It was bad enough that your mother was going to milk her after all these years of city life. But Anne-Marie, to do it for the very first time? I'm surprised Blossom didn't kick you." Because when I have never milked a cow, and I don't know if any of you guys have, but I do know that you do have to do it in a certain way. Like you can't just go and pull on their udders. There is kind of a technique to it, so that you don't hurt the poor dairy cow. So anyways, Anne-Marie had to milk poor Blossom. Mama laughed too. She sat in a comfortable chair that Uncle Henrik had moved from the living room and placed in a corner of the kitchen. Her leg, in a clean white cast to the knee, was on a footstool. Anne-Marie didn't mind their laughing. It had been funny. When she had arrived back at the farmhouse, she had run along the road to avoid the soldiers who might still be in the woods. Now, carrying nothing, she was in no danger. But Mama and Kirsty were gone. There was a note hastily written from Mama that the doctor was taking her in his car to the local hospital, but that they would be back soon. But the noise from Blossom, forgotten, unmilked, and uncomfortable in the barn, had sent Anne-Marie warily out with the milking bucket. She had done her best, trying to ignore Blossom's irritated snorts and tossing head, remembering how Uncle Henrik's hands had worked with a firm, rhythmic pulling motion, and she had milked. "I could have done it," Kirsty announced. "You only have to pull and it squirts out. I could do it easily." Anne-Marie rolled her eyes. "I'd like to see you try," she thought. "Is Ellen coming back?" Kirsty asked, forgetting the cow after a moment. "She said she'd make a dress for my doll." "Anne-Marie and I will help you make a dress," Mama told her. Ellen had to go with her parents. Wasn't that a nice surprise that the Rosens came last night to get her? "Well, she should have waked me up to say goodbye," Kirsty grumbled, spooning some imaginary food into the painted mouth of the doll she had propped in a chair beside her. "Anne-Marie," Uncle Henrik said, getting up from the table and pushing back his chair, "if you come with me now to the barn, I'll give you a milking lesson. Wash your hands first." "Me too," said Kirsty. "Not you two," Mama said. "Not this time. I need your help here since I can't walk very well. You'll have to be my nurse." Next page. Kirsty hesitated, deciding whether to argue. Then she said, "I'm going to be a nurse when I grow up, not a cow milker, so I have to stay here and take care of Mama." Followed, as usual, by the kitten, Anne-Marie walked with Uncle Henrik to the barn through a fine, misty rain that had begun to fall. It seemed to her that Blossom shook her head happily when she saw Henrik and knew that she would be in good hands again. She sat on the stacked hay and watched while he milked, but her mind was not on the milking. "Uncle Henrik," she asked, "where are the Rosens and the others? I thought you were taking them to Sweden on your boat, but they weren't there." "They were there," he told her, leaning forward against the cow's broadside. "You shouldn't know this. You remember that I told you it was safer not to know. But," he went on, as his hands moved with their sure and practiced motion, "I will tell you just a little, because you were so very brave." "Brave?" Anne-Marie asked, surprised. "No, I wasn't. I was very frightened." "You risked your life." "But I didn't even think about that. I was only thinking of—" He interrupted her, smiling. "That's all that brave means, not thinking about the dangers, just thinking about what you must do. Of course you were frightened. I was too today. But you kept your mind on what you had to do. So did I. Now, let me tell you about the Rosens. Many of the fishermen have built hidden places in their boats. I have too, down underneath. I have only to lift the boards in the right place, and there is room to hide a few people. Peter and others in the resistance who work with him bring them to me, and to the other fishermen as well. There are people who hide them and help them along the way to Gillileege. Anne-Marie was startled. "Peter is in the resistance? Oh, of course! I should have known. He brings Mama and Papa the secret newspaper, De Frey Danske, and he always seems to be on the move. Oh, I should have figured it out myself." "He is a very, very brave young man," Uncle Henrik said. "They all are." Anne-Marie frowned, remembering the empty boat that morning. "Were the Rosens and the others there then, underneath when I brought the basket?" Uncle Henrik nodded. "Well, I heard nothing," Anne-Marie said. Next page. "Well, of course not. They had to be absolutely quiet for many hours. The baby was drugged so that it wouldn't wake and cry. Because you remember in that earlier chapter when Peter gave the baby that medicine from the little dropper? There you have it. Well, could they hear me when I talked to you?" "Yes, your friend Ellen told me later that they heard you. And they heard the soldiers who came to search the boat." Anne-Marie's eyes widened. "Soldiers came?" she asked. "I thought they went the other way after they stopped me." "There are many soldiers in Gillileege, and all along the coast. They are searching all the boats now. They know that the Jews are escaping, but they are not sure how, and they rarely find them. The hiding places are carefully concealed, and often we pile dead fish on the deck as well. They hate getting their shiny boots dirtied. He turned his head toward her and grinned. Anne-Marie remembered the shiny boots confronting her on the dark path. Uncle Henrik, she said, I'm sure you are right that I shouldn't know everything, but please, would you tell me about the handkerchief? I knew it was important, the packet, and that's why I ran through the woods to take it to you. But I thought maybe it was a map. How could a handkerchief be important? He set the filled pail aside and began to wash the cow's udder with the damp cloth. Very few people know about this, Anne-Marie, he said with a serious look. But the soldiers are so angry about the escaping Jews and the fact that they can't find them, that they have just started using trained dogs. They had dogs, the ones who stopped me on the path. Uncle Henrik nodded. The dogs are trained to sniff about and find where people are hidden. It happened just yesterday on 2 boats. Those darn dogs, they go right through dead fish to the human scent. We were all very, very worried. We thought it meant the end of the escape to Sweden by boat. It was Peter who took the problem to scientists and doctors. Some very fine minds have worked night and day trying to find a solution. And they have created a special drug. I don't know what it is, but it was in the handkerchief. It attracts the dogs, but when they sniff at it, it ruins their sense of smell. Imagine that. Anne-Marie remembered how the dogs had lunged at the handkerchief, smelled it, and then turned away. Now, thanks to Peter, we will each have such a handkerchief, each boat captain. When the soldiers board our boats, we will simply pull out the handkerchiefs out of our pockets. The Germans will probably think we all have bad colds. The dogs will sniff about, sniff the handkerchiefs we are holding, and then roam the boat and find nothing. They will smell nothing. Did they bring dogs to your boat this morning? Yes. Not 20 minutes after you had gone. I was about to pull away from the dock when the soldiers appeared and ordered me to halt. They came aboard, searched, found nothing. By then, of course, I had the handkerchief. If I had not, well, his voice trailed off and he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. If she had not found the packet where Mr. Rosen had dropped it, if she had not run through the woods, if the soldiers had taken the basket, if she had not reached the boat in time, all of the ifs whirled in Anne-Marie's head. They are safe in Sweden now, she asked. You're sure? Uncle Henrik stood and patted the cow's head. I saw them ashore. There were people waiting to take them to shelter. They are quite safe there. But what if the Nazis invade Sweden? Will the Rosens have to run away again? That won't happen. For reasons of their own, the Nazis want Sweden to remain free. It is very complicated. And that's what I was telling you earlier about how Sweden wanted to remain neutral because they had natural resources that the Germans were using. Anne-Marie's thoughts turned to her friends hiding under the deck of the Ingeborg. It must have been awful for them. So many hours there, she murmured. Was it dark in the hiding place? Dark and cold and very cramped. And Mrs. Rosen was seasick, even though we were not on the water very long. It is a short distance, as you know. But they are courageous people, and none of that mattered when they stepped ashore. The air was fresh and cool in Sweden. The wind was blowing. The baby was beginning to wake as I said goodbye to them. I wonder if I will ever see Ellen again, Anne-Marie said sadly. You will, little one. You saved her life, after all. Someday you will find her again. Someday the war will end, Uncle Henrik said. All wars do. Now then, he added, stretching. That was quite a milking lesson, was it not? Uncle Henrik, Anne-Marie shrieked, and then began to laugh. Look, she pointed. The god of thunder has fallen into the milk pail. Remember, the god of thunder is Thor, the name of the little kitty. Naughty little thing. Okay, so in your packet, the only thing you have left is literally the very back. So you just, if it's like this, you literally just flip it over. So the very last page is the quiz time page for chapters 16 through the afterword. And see the other side of that was your ABC order page. Okay. All right, so for today, for the chapter that we just read, you are able to answer numbers 1 through 6. So quite a few problems, but it's all just from that one chapter, so it's pretty easy. So number 1, what is the first thing Anne-Marie had to try to do after returning to her uncle's house that morning? What did she have to go out and do because nobody else was there? Number 2, what is Uncle Henrik's definition of bravery? Number 3, 2 parts. Does Anne-Marie feel that she is brave? Why or why not? Number 4, how does Uncle Henrik get the Rosens to Sweden? Number 5, what does Anne-Marie learn about Peter? He wasn't just Peter, he was a part of a group. What do you remember? And number 6, what is the secret of the handkerchief? Okay, so make sure you're using text evidence to answer those 6 questions. All right, thank you.